Wow, you've convinced me on homeschooling. 2, 3 hours a day. I'm like, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah. I have a whole series on my YouTube channel about homeschooling for that reason. People ask me about that more than they ask me about pretty much anything. So I'm always trying to convince people because I mean the outcomes for kids are so great, and I feel like we don't have connected families anymore. Children spend like 2 hours a day with their parents, and it didn't used to, like, for all of human history, everything was very interconnected. You were spending time with your family and your community and your extended family, right? You'd see your grandparents all the time, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins were always around, and everybody was always doing things together. And now
Right.
everything is atomized and everybody's compartmentalized. So mom drops the kids off to school and they probably go in different buildings, and then the mom goes off to her work and the dad goes off to his work, and then everybody's doing their extracurriculars and their things that they do, and then everybody sees each other for like an hour before bed if they're lucky. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that's another thing that affects keeping families together. Whereas if you have moms staying home and homeschooling, it promotes that bonding and interconnectedness in the family and then also within the community. So if you have multiple homeschooling families working together, then you've got a support network. And that's something that moms are really missing nowadays. We used to have so much support from like our moms, our sisters, our aunts, our cousins. And now it feels very lonely. It's like you're stuck in the house by yourself while all of your lady friends and your lady relatives are off in cubicles working, and you feel like you're the weirdo who's staying home and you don't
Mhm.
have any support and you don't have any help. And I think this is a way of creating community again because we've lost that.
Yeah, and who's affecting and influencing your kids too is the other thing.
Yeah, the state and its propaganda arm are going to be the primary entity raising your kids. So all day long, your children are going to receive this different messaging. They're going to be getting whatever it is in the school. And it tends to be, if you guys know anything about like the Department of Education, it's extremely liberal, it's extremely progressive, and they have a lot of, do you guys remember, maybe I'm older than a lot of people watching, but do you remember when they would have like dare come to your school, or they have like different
Yeah.
assemblies or programs that are trying to give kids a message?
Hmm.
Well, that stuff's getting increasingly more and more left wing and more liberal, progressive. It's very LGBTQ friendly and that sort of thing. So,
Even the fact that they're talking to her, like sex ed, that is I swear, I wish they would try to teach my kids about sex out. That is the, that is the biggest. I'm like, if you're a predator, what job are you going to try to do? The one where you're talking to the kids about sex. I'm like, look at, we had no sex ed in my high school, and there was not this crazy. I only know one girl in 4 years that allegedly got pregnant, and she was crazy. So I'm not even sure if she was telling the truth because she transferred, you know what I mean? And so it's
right.
like they act like they need to do like the parenting for the parents.
Yeah, they do. And so that's part of the history of the public education system, was that it came out of like Marxist ideas about the state owning the children and not the parents. And
Wow,
that the
really?
care of the care of the children should be about creating good workers, good industrial workers, and good like military service people for the state. That's where the model we have now came from. And sex ed has an even creepier history because the curriculum that we have in public schools now is based on the work of Alfred Kinsey. And if you've never Googled Alfred Kinsey and the children of, I think it's the children of Table 34, he did some highly unethical experimentation on infants and toddlers and children that became the basis for what we teach kids in sex ed now.
What?
If you were to ever read it, I don't even know what I can say on YouTube because it's that bad. But what this man was doing, he studied sexuality in infants, if that gives you an idea. So he was doing things to infants to see what happened if you stimulated them. I'll just put it that way. This man was a total lunatic creeper, and it's his work, which was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, that created the sex education system in the United States. So me personally, I just had a woman ask me this yesterday because she said, "Oh, my daughter's about to do sex ed in school. should I be in the class? Should I let her do it? And I said, I would not. I taught my kids what I felt they needed to know about that. I do want them to know how their body works, and I want them to understand biology, but I was able to teach it to them in a way that didn't include how to insert things into your anus, or, what happens when two daddies have sex, or things like that, because that's not the stuff that I want a 9-year-old learning, if that makes sense. So that's another big benefit to homeschooling, is you have the control over that. And I know a lot of progressives will be like, oh, you're trying to teach, you're not teaching kids what they need to know to be safe. And it's like, you can do that, and do that in a way that's age appropriate as those situations come along.
And your kids too. And that's the thing. Like, I have 2 sisters, right? I mean, well, I have more than that, but I'm thinking of 2 of my sisters. One sister would have needed a sex talk a lot earlier than my other sister, because my other sister, like, have you ever met an 18-year-old that mentally is like 14, 15? Like, she's just a naive, like, kid. The other one wasn't. And so it's like, your kids and like when they need that. And they don't talk about preserving the innocence. I'm so glad, like, my mom preserved my innocence as long as she did. You know what they think that kids need to know about all the craziness that's going on in the world. Why does a kid need to know that? Like, you shouldn't even really know what sex is. And in this idea that, like, if you don't know what sex is, that you're going to go out and do it. It's like, why would you do it if you don't know what it is? Like,
you wouldn't. And part of the agenda for why they want to push sex ed earlier and earlier and teach crazier and crazier things is because the research does show that human sexuality is very plastic. It's very malleable. So if you insert these ideas into kids' brains when they're very young, they find it more acceptable. And things like pornography consumption, the average child now first finds porn on their phone or tablet at around age 11. Kids are being exposed to this so young. And if you start watching that stuff at that age, by the time you get to 18, you have a completely warped idea of what human sexuality is, about what a healthy sexual relationship with another person looks like. You can develop addictions. It's just this idea that exposing tiny kids to all kinds of sexual stuff is good for them. Like, the data doesn't bear that out at all.
Yeah.
We know that that's not good for them.
Yeah. And I remember being like, I mean, not like 16, 17. And there was like something that, sexual, that I didn't know what it was. And this girl like mentioned it at school, and I was like, what's that? And everyone was like making fun of me, but it wasn't like I had any repercussions for not knowing what it was. Like, it was good. Why would you want to inform kids about that stuff?
That's part of the idea that, like, oh, your kids won't be cool or something. And I'm like, that's fine. Because have you ever noticed when we all get out of high school, it's the big differences that were there in high school kind of melt away. By the time you're like 25, everybody's kind of on an even playing field again. And the cool kids, a lot of them turn out to be losers. And the nerdy kids are the ones like running companies and getting stuff done and being successful. So this idea that your kids will be dorks who aren't sexually active at 14, fine. Like, I'm fine with that. Like, I'll take that over, teaching them about, anal sex when they're 5 and they're already, you are kind of putting a stamp of validation on those things. Because when their parents are teaching them something, the kid is going, oh, I must need to know this because it's going to be something I'm doing, right? So you're kind of putting a little bit of a stamp of approval on having like younger unmarried sex when you're going, now look, you're 9 years old and you need to know about all these different types of sex and how all this works. I taught my girls like things about female stuff, when they're hitting puberty and they get their lady time of the month. I would teach them all about that and explain what's going on and how that works. I'm not teaching them about male ejaculation or whatever when they're 8 or 9 years old. That's insane to me. Why would they need to know that? And if I'm telling it to them, they're thinking there's a reason they need to know that. So, what? And you can teach them about stranger danger and all of that kind of stuff without having to go into graphic detail about things that they're not ready for yet.